What's up, y'all? Party people in a place to be. It's your boy Shuvar the God. And oh, you know what? I'm missing something. I'll be back. That's what I was missing right there. Okay. So our guest is on. Request to be in the video. Request to be in the live. I hope y'all can hear me. Oh my God. Alexa, next song. I don't know if y'all know, but I hate that song, Throat Baby. Like, it's the worst. Okay, so Ms. Roberts, can you request to join to be in the live? Okay, here we go. Shout out to everybody joining in. We appreciate y'all. It says we waiting on you. Oh, and I always have the worst trouble getting these things going.
There we are.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good. You know, I'll be trying to look. I'm like an old man. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to technology, all I can do is tell Alexa to turn the music down. She didn't even do it. You see that? You see how you doing it?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I am doing well. It's good. You know what? I'm excited about you being here.
I'm excited too.
And you know what? Every time I think about the fact that, like, I'm in a place in my life where I can actually have real conversations with people who I probably either admired or maybe I didn't know about at the time, but you know, now I do know about, like, to be able to connect with people on your level, like, it's a real blessing. I think your internet is giving us a little trouble because you're froze right now.
Am I?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, I got low bars. That's probably why. I don't know what's going on.
You got one bar?
I have my 5G is like low. I have two now. Can you see? Is it better?
It's better. I can hear you now. It's still a little frozen, but at least I can hear you now. You got Wi-Fi you can connect to?
It is connected to the Wi-Fi. I guess my Wi-Fi running slow.
You must have Xfinity.
Hold on.
I'm a fuck.
No.
I do people walking all the time, man.
Okay, is that better? No.
A little bit better. I'm going to try to make it work. It won't be the first time that we had to postpone an interview due to technical difficulties, and it was Comcast's fault at the time, too. It definitely was.
And this has to be, I have MediaCom, so.
Oh, this is bad. This is bad. It's just as bad.
Probably. Because my TV keep going out, so I guess it's our service.
That's what it is. It's part of the service. But if I can hear you fine now, so okay, we good. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna make it happen.
All right.
Miss Perrion Roberts, you here in the building, aka China Doll, aka Baby Girl, all that right there, right? I was watching your documentary, and I was like, man, I'm gonna tell you, like, it's the life. This life is something else, right? This life is different, and people have no idea, like, you know, like you'll see somebody and they just look like a regular person, like you don't really know all the ins and outs of what's going on. You never really know what people have going on. So you know, like I said, it's good to have you here. I do want you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself for people that might not know, so we can go ahead and get into the interview.
Okay. So my name is Perrion Roberts, and I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. I was a trap queen in the entire state of Alabama. But I didn't start off like that. I started out going to school and not graduating college yet until later, but I went to college a few times. I modeled during that. I even worked.
Right.
The police didn't even know who I was. They thought I was a guy because they really thought Perrion was a guy.
Yeah. Perrion could be a girl or a boy. Yeah, okay. I got you.
Right. And so they never heard that name before, so they just automatically associated me for being a boy. But also, after I got in and out of the drug game, I also beat a murder case. I beat a couple of trafficking cases, and I've done a lot. I also filed a lawsuit against the Alabama Department of Correction.
Definitely want to get into that part. I definitely want to get into
that.
So we got something we had with the last interview, you know. So we got a little bit more time, so we can really kind of go in depth. So
okay.
So Alexa, volume 2. She be acting up, man. She don't even want to do right. You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
you're gonna have to get Siri.
I got Siri too. You know what? Alexa has replaced Siri in my life, and Siri be acting up because I can tell she a little jealous.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like Siri calls so she be like, I guess.
Oh, right.
So let's start from the beginning. Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
Little small Huntsville, Alabama. Everybody knows that's what NASA is. That's where the space shuttles are built, and they take off from there too, right? Huntsville, Alabama.
Correct. No, they take off in Florida.
That's right.
The shuttles.
Canaveral. That's right. Yeah. But that's where they're built at is in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some parts
what I'm known for is NASA.
Correct.
So now you grew up in Huntsville, 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I grew up in Huntsville my entire life.
Okay.
From the 60s. I was born in 64.
Where are you born in 64?
64.
Listen, you look wonderful for your age, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I mean, you know what? I found out that's not a compliment to say for your age because you're not. It's not like you're old. You look great for someone who's born.
Well, 56 used to be considered old, so.
But a guy who were older than they were now back then. It seemed like I remember old people back in the day. They was old.
Right.
Being old like they was old.
Right.
So, but coming of age, coming into your teens and your adulthood, 70s and 80s, Huntsville, Alabama. This is slightly before the crack cocaine epidemic and going into, the 80s with crack cocaine. Tell us a little bit about like what that was like growing up, in that area, because Alabama's the South. That's the real South.
Correct. Right. Correct. Well, growing up, I didn't grow up around drugs. My mother worked for the government. My grandfather worked in NASA with Warner Von Braun.
Okay.
My dad had his own construction company.
Okay.
So I didn't never see drugs until I took myself to the streets.
Okay.
And then that's when and the guy that I met, Champ, he introduced me to all the hustling and all of that street life.
Wow.
And so that's how I got into the street life. Otherwise, I started out in Catholic school. So
you had a little uniform and everything, right?
Yes, I thought I was going to be a nun, but that didn't work out.
What? I don't know how you being a nun, but even if you had done none of the stuff that you ever did, I don't see none ever have been a part of your life. I don't think that's going to work. So let's talk a little bit about your home life, your school. When you were in school, being a kid, because you said you had a pretty regular. You know, a lot of times you talk to people and they didn't have the same type of home life where you come from a 2-parent household. Your dad was a business owner. Your mom worked for the government. Like, you came from a fairly stable home life.
Yeah, it was fairly stable, except for where my parents fought, and it mainly be my dad wanting to leave and be gone the weekend. That's some weekend. He didn't do it every weekend, but sometimes they fight got very intense, and you know, he hit my mom in the head with a pickle jar. He beat my mom with a belt buckle.
On the documentary.
Yeah, he had this belt. It had a double loop. It was, what is it? The metal double loop.
So, yeah, I know.
And he had beat her in the head one time with that. And she had to get stitches and stuff. Other than that, we had a really good childhood. I mean, we didn't lack for anything.
Right.
You know, we had more than majority of the people that went to school with me. You know, we had a lot more. So as far as, if you want to say, things and clothes and all that kind of stuff, we had that. But we didn't have peace.
Right.
A lot of times at home, yeah. And so we would go, during the summer, I would leave and go to Atlanta with my aunt.
Okay.
And I would stay in Atlanta. So I kind of like grew up, I guess you could say, in Atlanta during that era too, College Park area. So,
okay.
I'm in
town, but you know, you can always shout out the SWAT, you know, College Park, East Point, you know, that whole area.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. I know it very well. But we did. We had a good child life. I mean, you know, when my mother and father divorced, then we kind of like started feeling the fact that we only had one parent in the house, because my mom had 2 kids, and then after they divorced, then they decided to have my other brother.
Okay.
But at the time she only had 2, and it was beginning to be kind of hard on her with 1 paycheck and 2 kids, and then she had another one, so that brought on a lot of pressure. And my grandparents had to step in a lot of times to help my mom out. And but other than that, I can't complain about my childhood.
You were how old at that point when your parents divorced?
Oh, I was 13 when they divorced.
Okay.
And I was 14 when my other brother was born. My third brother was born.
Gotcha. So he's my age. Because I think you're about 14 years older than me. So he's my age. He's about 40.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I have one that I'm 20 years older than.
Really?
So,
but you know how people in the South, you be having old, you be having whole uncles at your age. Like, how you older than your uncle? But you know, you know how they do.
Right.
So right around that age, 14, 15, you hit a growth spurt, right? Mm-hmm. And you started doing some modeling around that time.
I did. Okay. Well, I started modeling when I was like 9, with J.C. Penney's and Sears, and at the time McRae's was big here, and I did a lot of modeling around town. And when I got about 14, then we started going to Birmingham and different places. And then as I got older, then I started getting into beauty pageants. And actually, I was a lot older when I got into the beauty pageants, but they thought I was younger. So
okay. I can see that because you look young now. So
well, thank you.
So right around that time is also when you met Champ too, right? Or maybe
right. Well, I met Champ when I was 17.
Okay. So you're 17 years old, still in high school, doing the model thing. Mm-hmm. You're basically a regular teenager. Just a regular teenage kid in the South, right? So
right.
Yeah, and he was kind of in the streets, right?
He was in the streets. He and his family, that's all they knew. That's all they knew. And and then after I graduated, then I started working. I started working at Taco Bell, and and then that check wasn't enough, so I got a job at Captain D's,
Okay.
and that wasn't quite enough. And when I was going to A&M, so I started working in the placement office at A&M. So I had 3 jobs.
Okay.
And he was doing his thing, you know. But at the time, he wasn't selling drugs. At the time, they were breaking into buildings. They take sledgehammers and they break in the wall of the building and they just wipe them out overnight.
Okay.
And then I would find out where they have busted a hole in, and then I tell my dad that there's a possible job for him.
They don't do the job. Okay.
And so
that's how it's supposed to work.
Right, but my dad never knew that I knew who was doing it. I never told my dad that that Champ was actually, he and his cousins was busting these walls. I just said, you know, I was riding by the street and I seen it. I seen that hole. And I said, you better go check on it. And he got the jobs because my dad, he was an amazing bricklayer. He was the foreman for the Von Braun Civic Center when it was built.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I think I learned my business
like, you know,
from my dad.
Somehow he be knowing about all the construction jobs. Like, I don't know how she knows, but she knows about all the construction jobs.
And he never questioned me. He just said, because he know I like to ride. I get in the car. I'll ride all day. I'll put 1,000 miles on the car just in the city.
Man,
yeah,
you gotta be willing to hit that road.
Yeah. And so I would see a lot.
Okay.
But I was in school and stuff and working, so he didn't think anything about that I was involved or with someone that is doing those things. But I didn't ever tell him for a while.
Okay, gotcha. Because, you know, we talked about this when you called into the radio show too. You said it wasn't Champ taught you how to sell drugs. He taught you how to be a hustler. And it's
right.
A lot of people, when you say that word hustle, they immediately think, oh, I sell drugs. I think Tupac has a song about that. You know, he has a line about that or something. Like, you know, when I say I'm hustling, you know, all you see is the trouble or something like that. But because people look at, when you say I'm a hustler, like you're selling drugs. But, you know, like speak to that. Like speak to, like, what that means. He taught me how to be a hustler.
Well, he taught me how to take care of business, to handle myself in the street as being a female. You don't have to you can hustle jobs like I did when I had 3 jobs. That's hustling. That's hustling jobs. You know, or if I had toothpaste, I could sell toothpaste. You know, because that's a hustle. You're a salesman. You got to know how to work and to be in the streets and be able to take care of yourself in the streets. And so hustling can be, you can go all day to describe what a hustle is, because everything is a hustle. You sell T-shirts. People that sell T-shirts, they're hustling. You know, tennis shoes or corporate America, they hustle. During the stock market, that's a hustle. That's every day you get up.
That's numbers running what it is. But right. You know about the numbers back in the day, then you can play the stock market. Definitely.
Exactly. I play stock markets too, though.
Did you get in on that GameStop at AMC last week?
No, I missed out on
that. You know, man, my homeboy was like, go buy some AMC. And I bought that AMC while I woke up the next morning. I was like, yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate that tip.
No, I need somebody to tip me because I hadn't been doing it in a minute. But I wish somebody had a call and tip me on it.
Right. It was a nice little come up. But okay, so So how did you go from saying, okay, I'm hustling, whatever that means, you know what I'm saying, to saying, okay, we're gonna start selling drugs. We're gonna start selling, you know, we're gonna start doing this particular thing right here.
Well, because the hustling that they were doing was causing him to get chased by the police, because they're breaking in buildings and taking the ATM machines and different stuff. So sometimes he's have to run and running through mud and all this kind of stuff and coming in, police chasing it. Man, I drove one time, a couple of times, a couple of times. I learned how to be a driver though. Yeah, I learned how to be a driver, a getaway driver. And so the police got behind us, and so I lost the police.
Okay.
Well, so I learned how to be a driver, and I told him that was kind of dangerous. I stealing and all that. I don't like all that. So it was some guys in the projects that was selling marijuana, older men. There was a couple of older men, and he was like, he's making a lot of money off of that marijuana. Now, he didn't smoke and I didn't smoke. So we was like, okay, so let's just try it. You know what I'm saying? So we took one of my paychecks and we went and bought some, and and
so
and we started
with your paycheck. It's not like how these dudes now, like, girl, let me flip your paycheck. And he never.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, he flipped my paycheck.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't quite enough because we lost, and so we had to wait for another paycheck. It took a minute. It wasn't like it was no overnight success. You know what I'm saying? We had to build up customers and people knowing that we had the product and stuff, and then finally we build up enough to buy a pound. And once we bought a pound, that's when everything just blew up.
Okay, got it.
From there.
Gotcha. So you start out with weed, start out with marijuana, right? You saved up to buy a pound. You go through the growing pains. Because people do think you start selling drugs and all of a sudden you become a millionaire. That's not really how it works with any business. You know, people think you start a business and all of a sudden you become a millionaire. That's not really how it works.
No.
So,
No. You take a lot of losses.
Yeah.
You sometimes some people that start out trying to sell drugs take such a loss that they never can recover because they don't have another way, means, because they decide this is what they want to do, is just sell drugs. Okay, so what if you lose all that money?
Then what?
Or something happened. So what do you have to fall back on to come back? Well, all you done there was bought some old cars at that. So that's why, I said, okay, so I'll keep a job in case we fall. We got come up money,
right? So
we can take the checks and we can set it to the side because we'll use this money to do whatever we want to do with it, or whatever. And so that took a lot of building and a lot of patience and a lot of hungry days, because sometimes you can't eat because that's your cop money. And
right.
So, I've had to start from the bottom a few times, more than a couple of times, but a few times.
Yeah.
And, to get where I got to. But that was over years. It wasn't like I went at 17, I was a millionaire when I started selling dope. No, I sold drugs for 30 years.
Right.
This is over a course of time,
okay.
Of building.
Was what? Is this 1987, 88?
I was 17 at 82.
You were 17 to 82. Okay. So you started out selling weed in 82. Now, 82, that's right at the beginning.
Well, 82, 83.
The crack cocaine era. Like, crack hadn't really hit in 82, especially not in the South. Like, if you were in LA, or you were in New York, then crack was starting to hit 82, 83, 84. So this is before the crack cocaine era.
Oh, yeah. Crack didn't make it to us until around, I want to say, 89.
Okay. That sounds...
somewhere in there, about 89, because 88, from 84, I started selling powder in 84.
Okay.
And so from 84 to 89, that was just powder.
Okay.
Powder cocaine.
So
and then,
about the difference between that too, because one of the things that I'm really big on is, these drug laws that we have where people like yourself and people who I knew back in the 90s when I was coming up, and, just people in general, where you get so much more time for crack cocaine as opposed to powder cocaine, right? So talk a little bit about the difference between what it's like to sell powder as opposed to selling crack. Before crack came, when you were selling powder.
Well, powder is supposed to be the pure form.
Right.
Of course, you can cut powder too.
Cut powder.
But yeah, but most of the time, if a person did cut it, they didn't cut it with nothing that'll kill a person or harm a person. Usually, they cut it with some type of vitamin or something.
Right.
With crack is formed with different, well, not really a whole lot of chemicals, but the chemicals that you use, you know, like the baking soda, and then whatever cut they may put on it and to form it. Now I didn't put no cut on mine. We just straight had the knockout.
Back to back.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the difference. And then they just made the laws totally different so that they can give a person more time for crack than they do for cocaine. Even now, powder cocaine don't get as much time as it would if it was crack.
Right. You have
marijuana, of course.
30 or 40 years for nonviolent crimes. People that's been in prison since 88, since 90, since 92.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know, none of that.
Nothing, and didn't even have that much to even be in there that long.
Didn't even have.
You know, here in Alabama, and I think everywhere, 28 grams is considered a felony.
It's a felony.
In trafficking.
That's about right.
Anything over 28 grams is considered trafficking, and so anything under that,
small amount of product, like that's 28 grams. That's not even
that's an ounce.
Well, basically,
28 grams is an ounce. That's an ounce.
Right. So you're talking about an ounce, or because by the time the cut come in, some of that might not even be cocaine. So that's what
they don't care.
So that's what I'm saying. So they don't care.
Yeah.
People go to prison for less than an ounce of this substance. Most times they don't even have a whole ounce of it. You know, by the time they put all the cut in it, and you end up doing 30 years in prison. 40 years in prison.
That's right. 'Cause by the time they put that cut on it, they may have only 25 real grams of cocaine, and the rest is not, or less.
Or less.
You know, sometimes people give you 7 grams of real stuff, and the rest of it not even real.
Yeah.
And so, but you get charged as though all of it is real. And if you got guns and money and drugs here in Alabama, see, any 2 felonies, you know, constitute habitual offender or whatever.
3 strikes and all that other stuff, and then you end up in prison for life.
For life.
Yeah.
Or a very long time. They offered me 99 years.
Right. So we're going to get into that, too. We're going to talk a little bit about you end up getting 99 years. So you made the transition from selling marijuana to powder. And you started with the crack, 88, 89, 90. And you became very successful at that. Now, I know at some point, Champ goes to prison, right?
Right.
Now, that was pre-crack or that was after you guys started with the crack?
Oh no. That he went to prison before crack.
Okay.
He went to prison before crack. We were still just starting to sell a little bit of powder, but not enough to make no real money. We made more of our money with the marijuana.
Okay. And
then when he got locked up, and after I had to go and collect our money and all of that.
About that there too, because there's a story. It's like, okay, I gotta let these people know that I didn't come out here to play, because you know, if you think about it, you are an attractive young woman. You young too. You 18, 19 years old, very pretty, very attractive, dressed real fly. You know, and you known to be this guy's girlfriend. You're not necessarily known to be a drug. You known to be, you know, guy's girlfriend. Which, a lot of drug dealers have attractive girlfriends, you know, so you're not known for that. So what was that experience like going to have to say, you know, I got to take over this business? I know I talked to Miss T, you know, who had a similar story to yours, but she was in Harlem, in New York, you know, and she talked about when her boyfriend, that's how she actually, the same story, I had to take over for the business because he went to prison. So, you know, talk a little bit about what that was like for you, saying, you know what, if we're going to continue to live this life, I gotta take over the business.
Yeah, because we had made enough money where I bought 2 new cars before he got locked up, and brand new cars. And so I was like, I've got to do something, you know, and these people got our money. And see, I was in the back, so I didn't know who all had the money. And they didn't know, they knew me for being his girl or whatever. And so he had to tell me who to go get it from, give me their names and all of that. And he, told me to go, and they should have our money by Friday, and this and that. This one I have it whatever day. And so when I went to that one guy, at first he said that because he was locked up, you weren't gonna give me shit, and that was not the answer. And you are gonna pay me.
I can see in your face now you still offended. And this 2 years later, you still offended right now. What did you?
So I told him, I said, you are gonna give me my money. He told me he was not.
Okay.
And he was firm about it. And so I was firm about it. So I pulled the pistol out and I shot him in the leg. And my dad always told me, if you shoot a person in the leg, you won't go to jail. And back then they didn't.
Well, back then,
if you shoot a person below the belt, you didn't go to jail. It's if you shot them above the belt, then you would go to jail for shooting a person.
And I don't think people understand like the difference in the laws now as opposed to the difference in the laws back then. I know I've interviewed some people, you know, some of the founding members of the Crips, some of the founding members of the Bloods. I've done some interviews with them. They talk about how in the 70s you could kill somebody and you go to prison for 2-3 years, you get 18 months. Depending on the situation.
Easy. Depends on the situation.
Right, depending on the situation.
And if you shoot a person below the belt, you're not even going to jail. That's a simple assault. That's a misdemeanor, like a traffic ticket.
Like a traffic ticket, right?
At the time. Yeah. You go and do a few months and you get out of jail and they delete that off your thing, just like a traffic ticket. It was nothing.
Right.
It was nothing to shoot somebody. And so that's when people, I think when they saw that part, it was like, oh, she shot somebody. Yeah, but we could shoot somebody back then. It wasn't nothing going to happen. You know, literally, like you said, you could kill somebody. It depends on the situation.
On the situation. You might go to jail for
but
you know, so.
Right.
So that situation happens. After that, you didn't really have a lot of issues collecting money.
No, I ain't have no more issues. See, I had shot at Champ before this.
Okay.
What had happened before he went to jail? So that's when people in the streets really knew that I would shoot, because I shot at him, and they was like, "Oh wow," because he was tough in the street. He was not nothing to play with, and so they was like, "Oh my gosh, she shot at Champ," you know. Yeah, Champ almost made me drown on some orange juice.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
What happened was we were riding down the road, and a guy just passing by in another car spoke. And so I spoke back, and I turned up some orange juice, and he hit it, and it went up in my nose.
No, but I almost imagine the whole situation. I see all that right there.
My mother said, yes, and my mother said you can drown on a tablespoon of water, and I can't swim, so that's all I thought about was you almost made me drown. And so I said, I got something for you, and I was driving, so we was headed to his mom's house. So when he got out the car, I politely went up under the seat, pulled out my pistol, and shot at him going in his mama's house.
You shot at this boy in front of his mama's house? You know
He was running in the door. I was shooting him, and I was shooting going into the house. I shot in the house at him.
You know what level of don't give a fuck you gotta have to shoot somebody going in their mama house?
He almost made me drown. And then they had these 2 little steps. And so he was running, I was shooting, and I tripped over the steps and I busted my lip. So that's why I have that spot right there. And my tooth went in my lip. And then I guess I was just so hard. I just didn't even go get no stitches.
You wasn't so, shoot, champ. I can see it in your eyes right now. You wasn't gonna shoot. You were just mad.
I was real mad.
Now look,
but if I had hit him, he'd have just been hit.
My co-host was talking about, oh Lord, now she would have shot. I don't play around.
Well,
right.
Well, he was running, and he ran in the house, and then when I tripped and fell, blood was everywhere. My lip was bleeding, and then people in the street were talking about he had punched me in the mouth. I wish he would have. You
can laugh about this now. You can laugh about this now. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I actually
go ahead.
Ran over another boyfriend. I ran him over with a car and I cut him up. But we'll get to that when we get to that part.
So getting back to the so you start collecting and the business kind of just takes off from there. Shout out to all my homegirls who's joining. Like listen, I love them so much because I love y'all so much because I have been blessed to be around such strong, powerful women. Like first of all, they don't play and they're about their business. And, you know, I feel blessed for that. So, and they all wanted to, they was like, oh my God, I can't believe you interviewed. So they all tuned in, all your fans, because of stuff like this right here. So, so after you start running the business kind of takes off.
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, not actually. Actually, I got bored with the marijuana because that's slow money, and I'm bored easily too. So if nothing is moving really fast, then I'm bored with it. I move on, and so I decided to go back to school. I said, well, you know, I'm gonna do the right thing, and he's locked up. I'm gonna go back to school. So I did. I went back to school. I was in school about 1.5 years, 2 years, and I ran into Po' Boy. Po' Boy is actually his cousin. He used to come up to his house when they were kids.
Okay.
And so I used to take them to the mall and stuff when they were little boys and stuff. But anyway, he knew me, and so we ran into each other on the road, and he told me he was 17 at the time.
Okay.
When I ran into him.
Okay.
And I think I was 21.
Okay.
21 or so then. He told me, he said, I got it going on in the project in Bow Terrace. I said, doing what? Because I know you was he used to steal. So I'm like, he said, no, I'm selling cocaine. Yeah, I said, you're not selling no cocaine. You never seen cocaine. He said, yes, I have. And I got it going on. I got some guys selling for me. I said, really?
Okay.
And so then I said, okay, I'll come out there. But I didn't come. It was like several months or so before I decided. One day I was broke almost.
Okay.
And I said, well, let me go out and see what he's doing. And I went out there, and sure enough, he had it going on. He showed me how to do bindles and keep it in the rice and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so that was that was exciting. Because the cocaine was smaller than the weed, but I had more, and it was moving faster. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I like this. And so I started coming out there a little bit more, and then just kind of like hanging with him and kind of seeing what they had going on and stuff. End up getting into some fights with some guys, helping them fight and just different stuff, just out there, just gang banging with them. And then he got killed, and then his little crew, because I was out there, I was just selling for myself. I was just out there.
Right.
I just cop and sell my own stuff. I didn't have nobody. I'd go car to car, house to house, or whatever. And oh my God.
Uh-oh.
I lost my ear thing. Hold on. Oh shoot. Can you hear me?
I can hear you though. Go ahead. That's fine. You go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and go ahead and pick your earpiece up.
Okay.
That's a nice
I'm
painting.
doing a lot of work.
That's a very nice painting you have behind you.
Oh, thank
Is that at
you.
your house?
You know, yes, I'm Cherokee. So that's a painting of Cherokee Indian.
Okay. You know what?
So,
People don't understand how many of us, when we say Indian in our family, especially coming from this
uh-huh.
part of the South, when you Cherokee, Choctaw, and all that right there, Lumbee. There's a lot of us like my grandmother, right? And we would say I'll say it to my people. I would say it to people about my grandmother, like my grandmother's part Indian and then half white and all this other stuff, and they'd be like, oh, everybody black, so they got Indian in their family, but no, most Indians look like us. So I'm glad you said that actually. So
exactly, and I'm certified. I have my card.
you got
So
your card, okay?
I'm registered. Yeah, I'm registered. I'm certified.
Okay.
I vote as Indian and everything. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So now you now look, because there's a part of the show I gotta ask you about. When I watched the documentary, I said these Negroes right here, right? So there came a time where y'all got some beef with somebody, or they owed y'all some money or something.
Few times.
And
yeah.
Y'all pull up to the bowling alley. Is it the bowling alley? And your boy hopped out with a sign that says, "We declare war." And then here you go jumping out the car with an AK-47. You just gonna lit the whole parking lot up.
All the time. I'm gonna light it up. Nobody gonna be standing but me. But that was just one time. But what led up to that was these guys from a different project was into it with my guys. They went into it with me. But if they're into it with my guys, you're into it with me.
Okay.
Right. Because I had guys in all the projects in Huntsville selling for me. So it wasn't like, but they were into it with my guys. And so my guys had went to the club driving one of my cars. And these guys shot a hole in my trunk, hit my Louis Vuitton, put a hole through it.
Louis Vuitton. This is a Louis Vuitton in the 90s. This ain't like having a Louis Vuitton now. Well, a whole bunch of cotton. Like everybody didn't.
No, this was the real. This was the because they didn't even have knockoffs then.
I'm wearing right now. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't have knockoffs back then. Not yet. Anyways, I guess it was coming. But and so they shot a hole in it, and so when they came back to the project, and they, told me about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so earlier that day, I had went to one of the guys' house, and my guys wanted to go with me. I said, no, I handle this. So I went to their house, and so his sister and brother-in-law or somebody, they was all outside. So I asked for him, and they was like, he wasn't there. So I pulled a gun on them, and they had their kids and everything. They said, don't do that in front of the kids. I said, I could care less about you or your children. I just know that he shot a hole in my car, and I got to get some straightening about that. And he need to come see me because he need to buy me a new purse.
We gonna, you know what I'm saying? You was young at this time. We know that you're a different person today. So,
yeah,
maybe.
I don't do stuff. No, I don't do that. No. No, when I retired completely. I don't do any of that anymore. And I'm too old.
So you get this argument with them because we've already, you don't mind going to somebody's house when you shot at the other dude at his mama's house. But
oh no. And so he wasn't there. I didn't shoot at their house. He wasn't there. So I said, okay, so I'll go. But you tell him I'm looking for him. So it was that people used to go to the bowling alley, like everybody, that's where they hung out. And so we got a tip that they were there. So we was in the projects. We was in one of the projects. And so we loaded up. I said, let's go. We loaded up. And we ran in, came up through the side. They didn't even see us coming in because there was so many people. But we spotted them. And then we pulled up like almost in front of them. And then Michael jumps out the car. Michael had got that sign made that sign when we was in the project, being bored, about like me,
And what
being
project you
bored,
from
making
now? What
stuff.
project are you from?
Huh?
What project are you from?
Where?
What's the name of the
Where?
project?
Oh, the project was Bella Terrace. I didn't grow up in the project.
Right, you didn't grow up in the project, but that was where you hung out. That's where you did the thing. That was in Butler Terrace. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I went from Mason Court to Bella Terrace. Mason Court is where me and Champ was. And then I moved on to Bella Terrace and then the rest of the projects. But my main spot was Bella Terrace at that time. And so Michael made the sign that day. And he jumped out the car. And you can't laugh because you're mad. But we laughed about it after we went back to the project. I said, Michael, where you get that sign from? He had made it. And it said, "We declare war." I actually use that slogan now when somebody make me mad. I ask them to declare war with me.
Okay.
Right now. But yeah, I'll tell you about that later. But anyways.
But the thing is, things from our past, sometimes we take those and we turn around and go in a different direction, which you're going to get to that in a little bit anyway. So I'm with you 100%. We declare war, baby.
Yeah. We declare war. I had to tell that to my neighbors out here last year.
Now, are you in
got some prejudiced neighbors. Huh?
Are you in Atlanta now, or are you still in Huntsville?
No, I'm still in Huntsville right now.
Okay. And you probably live in a nice neighborhood, so I can imagine, because I've had to tell my neighbors a couple times too. Y'all tripping.
I had nice neighborhood, and they all prejudiced.
Very.
And I didn't know that. And so they started picking with me because they thought I'm just black with female with pits, and they don't like pits, and they don't like black, and all this, and so the old neighbor just kept picking at me. He and three of the other men, not the women, men, and they followed me to the house one day, and my camera's all on them. And so I turned around, I told him, I said, you know what? You don't even know who you fooling with. I said, but I tell you what, say you declare war with me. Let me think you're about to say it.
Please.
Declare it.
Right.
Please. That's what I told him. I said, please declare war with me. And they just looked at me like I was crazy. So the older white guy went to the courthouse the next day and lied and said that I cursed him out and threatened him with a 2x4. And they literally put a warrant out on me for disorderly conduct, which you can't do that. Citizen cannot put a disorderly conduct on you. And so I had went to jail and everything behind that.
This is recent.
And this was recently. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot, because you don't use 2x4s, you use guns. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. That's what the sheriff said. The sheriff said.
Did the sheriff say that?
Yes.
The sheriff said, I'm sorry, sir. You must not know. You don't know. Sorry, no, you don't know. Clearly.
I went to the sheriff. I went to the DA. I went to the state representative. I went to every single body. Everybody that you saw in my documentary, I went to, and plus.
Okay.
And then I went to the sheriff, and he said, well, we all know your choice of weapon is a pistol.
Right.
I said, undoubtedly, he don't know that.
Clearly.
I said, but I tell you what. I said, Kevin, I'm finna go get me a pistol. He said, no, don't you? No, we're going to take care of it.
Right.
Let us take care of it. And I told him, I said, you better take care of it. You better take care of it quick. I said, you better make this disappear. And sure enough, they did. They threw it out. But but my thing is, I had to go to court and everything because of you. You lied. Now, if this had been like in the 70s or 80s,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And as an older white man lied on a black female,
right?
I'd have been in jail for something that I didn't even do.
Or maybe
worse. Yeah.
At your door. Exactly.
If the Klan had showed up, I had one too.
We got a Klan too. I know that's right. Hey.
I got one. And back then, they didn't want to show up because it's going down.
Look, like Elijah Muhammad told Muhammad Ali, he said, you tell the mafia we got backs too. They got knees and we got backs.
Right.
They got knees, they got back. We got knees and they got back. So it's
right.
The same thing. You know what I'm saying?
I never had no issues with Western people until until then, I never really had no prejudice stuff going on with me,
But
until then.
talk about that though. I mean, because you have come into situations where, as a woman, like men have come at you in a way that is disrespectful simply because they feel like you're a woman and they can just do that. And I think a lot of women in power, no matter what business you're in, whether it is selling drugs, you're in corporate America, or you're starting a business or whatever, especially women that are in male-dominated industries. Like in my regular job, I'm in a very male-dominated industry, a very white male-dominated industry, and being in business consulting.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times women face that issue of men coming at them because you're a woman. So talk a little bit about like what that has been like with you. Even when you went to prison, you faced that issue. So you've been someone who has been able to overcome that in ways that other people have not. Talk a little bit about that whole struggle just as a woman in a male-dominated industry.
Well, how I handle it now is not how I handled it back years ago, of course. But I study people, and I know how to go about handling myself. When someone come at me negatively, I know how to offset it, and not provoke or allow them to provoke me. And that just come from skills. This just come from over time and just learning people, because and when selling drugs, you come across so many people with so many different attitudes, personalities, and all type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, by me having people selling for me, give me time where I didn't have nothing else to do but to study people, and most people tend to have the same type of characteristics, and just know how to maneuver around certain situations without causing friction or a problem. You don't have to give in, but you can be firm in what you say. I always believe if you say something, stay with it, stick to it, be firm in what you say.
Right.
If you're not going to tolerate this, then don't tolerate it from this one over here, because you might love this one,
right.
or whatever. You stay firm no matter what, because men, I don't care who it is, they always try to take advantage, or they try to see if they can take advantage or how far they can go. And I always have to let them know, hey,
because
back up.
There's a part of the documentary where it talks about like your choice in relationships. And for a long time, you chose not to be in a relationship because you didn't want that connection between a man and a woman to come in, to mess up your business. And
right.
to the point where even if you did, end up linking up with a guy, and if he came to your house and he was gonna stay overnight, you had to sleep on the floor with the dog.
Yeah.
Is that a real thing? Like, did you
I had a child. No, that's real.
Yeah, that's why
that's
I go to house. I come to my house. Go ahead.
I had a child. I had a black child. His name was King, and I
wanted his name to be nothing else.
Well, yeah, go figure.
Right.
But and he act like one, I bought him jewelry and everything, so he was royal. But no, I just didn't want that relationship. When Champ went to prison, that kind of like, I don't know, I guess because I loved him, and then he left, and now I'm out here alone, and I'm trying to build a business. Well, he taught me that when I'm trying to work or if I'm trying to be in the streets, sell drugs or whatever I'm doing, I can't have distractions and to get where I'm going. And if I have a relationship with this man, that's a distraction, because I've got to go tend to what you talking about. You want to spend time. I'm in the streets. I'm a street girl, but you want to lovey-dovey and spend time and all that. I don't have time for all of that. that don't interest me. How much money do you have? Do you have any money to make up for what I'm going to make if I'm in the street? If you do, fine. We can be lovey-dovey. But if you don't, then leave me alone. And so I would just use guys for sex if I decide I want a sex, you know, and somebody I might like a little bit to do that with. And but then they'll say, then they be like, well, you know, I'm just spending the night. No, you're not. You can sleep on the floor or you can leave. You're not sleeping in my bed.
Let me tell you why that's right. Because first of all, any man that respects you, he's not gonna invite you. He's not gonna come over to your house anyway. He's gonna bring you into his house so you can be comfortable. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Please tell the young girls that, because I'll be trying to tell them, stop letting them do stuff in your house. Stop. Men in your house. You need to go. You need, if you can, because they'll say, well,
if I can't go to your house, then I'm gonna treat you the way I want to treat you when you come to my house. And it's not like a king, because I had a king.
Because this ain't your house. You go to your house where you can.
It's not your house.
Right.
Exactly. And right now, I rule.
Right.
So
your house.
The whole state.
All of it. I don't feel comfortable because I had a guy put me in a rough situation. I'm like, well, make better choices than men. If you don't feel comfortable going to that man's house, you need to be dealing with. That's
right. But then I had a guy friend that I did fall in love with, and actually we was together, but not together up until he died. It's almost 2 years now. We was in our 20s. It was like we're about probably 25, 24, 25.
Is this the guy? Is this the guy Tony that they talked about in the?
No. This guy, we was together for 9 years, and then we wasn't boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, because he liked to fight all the time, and I got tired of fighting, so
I can't do that.
But we still seen each other because we still loved each other.
Right.
And he just passed away. We still seeing each other. I told him, I said, I'm not keep seeing you in my 60s. But I didn't know he was gonna pass away either. No, we had some real fights. I cut him up at the club. I came to the club and he had his arms around a girl, and I throw drink
in
everybody's face.
You said he passed away 2 years ago? So this was 3 years ago. Okay, go ahead.
No, this was in the 90s.
Okay.
This was in the 90s. No, he still loved me. I don't care what I do to him. He still loved me. He still wanted to be with me.
I'm about to say something to you, and the more of this scotch I drink, you know what? No, we can expect the interview. Anyway, so I want to get back into, and for everybody that just joined in, if you don't know who we're talking to Perrion Roberts. She was the original queen of the South, one of the longest reigning drug dealers in the United States. At one point, selling over 100 kilos, 200 kilos of cocaine at one time. Had, groups of people working for her all over the South, definitely all over Alabama, but really all over the South. Because at some point you connected with the cartels and all that other good stuff. We ain't gonna go that deep into that. You know what I'm saying? Because we just ain't gonna go that deep into that. But ultimately it was because you started a relationship with somebody, and it was this guy Tony that they talked about in the documentary. And that right there kind of led to your downfall as a kingpin or a queenpin.
It did.
So talk a little bit about that. Like how it all came crashing down.
Well, because I had lost my mom and my grandmother. I lost them 2 months apart.
Which is
and
rough.
So
I watched the documentary. It took me back to when I lost my grandfather a couple of years ago. That's a tough situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my grandfather in 2016. He was 100 years old, and I lost my dad last year. A week after he died, a week before I signed a contract for the American Gangster.
Wow. Okay.
Documentary.
My condolences.
So but anyway, with my mom, well, I had lost my mom and stuff, and I was crushed, and I was talking to him a little bit, before they died, my mom absolutely hated him. She hated him.
Mama be knowing.
Oh my God. My mom oh my God. She, my mom was something serious, but she hated him. And I should have listened to her because ultimately he's the one that caused me to really fall. And when I got busted, I don't think even though I was tired, but I don't think I would have got busted for real if I had known that the guy that I was dealing with had just got busted a few months prior to that at the bus station.
Your volume went. There you go. Okay, we back.
Okay. So Tony knew this, and he did not tell me that the guy had got busted. He thought, well, why should I tell you? Okay, but because I'm in the street and I'm hustling, and so therefore you mean to tell you don't know who I cross paths with,
right?
You know, and so anyways, he didn't tell me, and I dealt with the guy. I didn't know the guy but for 6 months, and the only reason why I dealt because. Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay. I had a shipment to come in from McAllen, Texas. That's
okay.
1 mile from the border, if don't nobody know. And that was through my Mexican connection and stuff. And so I was down to nothing. Matter of fact, I didn't have anything. And so I was like, okay, so let me get something to hold us over. I know I'm not going to get enough for everybody, but I can get enough where we can, be turning a little money, keep some food on the table.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I don't know if you know, but sometimes during the transportation of the mules to you, sometimes stuff happens. They get pulled over or something may happen. So
I'm saying I know the recipe, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. For some reason the truck kept getting stopped before it got to me twice. And so I said that wasn't number God afterwards, because I had at least 200 keys at the time. And so if I got caught with that, you would be here talking to me.
We be talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So which was a blessing, and anyways, I made the buy with him, and that's when they got me. He set me up.
Now originally, so you go to jail, and according to the documentary, Tony he was bounced on him, just disappeared on him. You never see him again. So basically, according to the documentary, he just went away. He just bounced on him.
Yeah, I don't talk to him no more.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
So you end up going to jail, right? Or you're in jail.
Prison.
Prison. No, not jail. Prison, which is a difference.
There is a difference.
But now, because originally they offered you 99 years, you end up getting 21. Correct. But now, was it the sheriff or was it the DA that actually kind of spoke on your behalf? The reason why you ended up
no, it was my arresting officer.
It was the officer.
It was my arresting officer.
Okay.
Yeah. It was Michael Izzo, the one in the documentary.
Okay.
He was the only one that could catch me out of all those years with enough to actually send me to prison. I got caught a couple of times, but it was like 0.1 gram, nothing.
So let's talk about that a little bit too, because I had a friend of mine who recently went through a similar situation, not for selling drugs, but for some other stuff that was going on. But she went through a similar situation, and it was almost like at some point you felt like her and the people that were doing the investigation, and ultimately the DA, and ultimately the prosecuting attorneys and all those people, they began to it wasn't they built a friendship with each other, but there was a mutual respect between the DAs, the prosecutors, the investigators, and the people that are in the streets. It's almost like you're in the same game, you just playing on a different team. It's like, okay, it's the Warriors versus the Lakers, and the Lakers, they want to win, and the Warriors, they want to win. So talk a little bit about it, like how that relationship developed between you and the officer, and him going up and actually speaking for you. Because with my homegirl, the investigator, the federal investigator, got up at the trial and said, she spoke for her, like, this is not somebody who needs to be in prison for that long. So talk a little bit about how that relationship developed.
Well, after I got arrested, I didn't go to court for 3 years. So within that 3 years, I ran into him and his family at a furniture store. And so he asked me, he said, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. And so we just started talking. And I introduced him to my daughter, he introduced him to his family and stuff. And so we just started talking, and I told him that, my daughter, what she was actually given to me.
I remember that.
Right.
A child that you took in.
Yeah, she was given to me at 3 months old.
Right.
And so when I told him that, and he was like, most drug dealers don't do nothing like this. They don't do stuff like this. And that's what he was thinking. And so when we finished talking, we talked 4 hours. And when we finished talking, when I finished talking to him, he said, I'm going to help you. He said, because you're not the person that they said you are.
Right.
You're not that person. And so he did. He went to bat for me. He did. And when he went to the DA and he offered 15 split 8 months.
Okay.
Well, was it 5 split 8 months? No, 15. I think it was 15. Something like that. I forgot now. But anyways, I know it was 8 months, whatever it was. And the DA said, no, I'm going to offer her 99 years. Because one, he's prejudiced. And two, you done build up a hate towards me and you don't even know me.
Right. And see, that's what I wanted to talk about, because a lot of times when you're dealing with these investigators, these prosecutors, they make you out to be a person that you're not. And it becomes more of a personal vendetta for them about you more so than it is the crime that you even committed.
Right.
Yeah, you might have been a drug dealer, and yeah, you might did this, you might did that stuff, but the person that you're trying to make me out to be, I'm not that person. And I think that's the issue we run into, because a lot of times, you hear people say stuff like, well, they criminals. Or yeah, well, they but at the end of the day, they're still people, and they still have real lives, and they still have, a real life that they have to go home to every day.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like I tell them, you all are criminals too. Because what did you do that you didn't get caught for? So don't be trying to down me, because you're not God. And I'll tell them in a minute in the courtroom. I don't care, because you're going to do what you want to anyways, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do and on too. So if I don't like what you're doing, I'm going to appeal it. So, and push on. But that's just me. A lot of people won't do that because they're afraid to do stuff like that.
So you got some on the, okay, go ahead. I got you.
Oh. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, you are.
Kids,
right. Well, I ain't got no kids yet. God ain't blessed me with no kids yet, but I'm gonna have some.
Anyway, this is my nephew.
Talking, anyway, let me stop messing with you. But
Okay.
So you end up getting 2 years in prison, and when you went to the Alabama State Prison, which is known to have some of the worst prisons, just like Georgia, is known to have some of the worst conditions in prison. Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, known to have some of the worst prisons in America when it comes to the condition of the prison itself.
Oh yeah.
Right now with what's going on with coronavirus, I can't believe some of the stuff that I hear people say they went through over the past year. But even when you went back in the early 2000s, the conditions were deplorable. And this is when you decided to turn around, change your life around. You started working for prison reform right there in the prison. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, when I first got to prison, well, I started the lawsuit because I have rheumatoid arthritis. So I started it with a medical because I found out that the doctor was a retired gynecologist. So if you're a retired gynecologist, you have no business trying to practice internal medicine.
Right.
And so he's going to tell me, he opened up a black book, and literally a black book. And he went down and said arthritis and what you to give the inmate for arthritis. You're not giving me any of that.
Right.
And he said, oh, well, if you don't get that, you won't get nothing. Oh, so you want to be smart. Okay.
Declare
so then, yeah, so then I went to work. I started finding out, oh yeah, he told me that. I said, well, you need to take me to, y'all need to make me an appointment for an outside specialist. They said, well, we can't take, inmates don't go to outside specialists. And even if they do, you can't take the medicine that they prescribe, and especially narcotics. Says who? And it's like, that's the rules. Okay, that's y'all's rules. We'll see if it's federal rules. And so anyway, I filed a lawsuit. Well, come to find out, of course, that's not true.
Right. That's not
so
right.
Right. So I won that for the state of Alabama, that you can go, that if you need to go to an internal medicine doctor, they have to book your appointment and take you and give you the medication, whatever they prescribe. They have to do that. And I won that. And then I won that they had to paint the prison because it had lead in the paint.
Right.
They had to call some specialists in to find out that it was lead in the paint, and then they had to paint the prison. That cost them a pretty penny. Then they had to get an internal medicine doctor, which cost them another pretty penny because they brought him in from Chicago. Then, simple stuff like taking pork out of food, don't cook no greens and all that with all that old fat back and stuff, killing folks. That's why these folks got high blood pressure and stuff like that. Then they messed around and beat a woman to death in front of me.
I remember you saying.
And yeah, and well, first of all, back up, for me to even be, see, it had two parts. One is minimum custody, which is like down the hill from the prison, and then the prison was maximum security. I was in minimum.
You was in minimum security. Okay.
Right. But I had to come up the hill into the maximum security because my state job became working in the law library to continue my lawsuit against them. But they wanted my state job to be first picking up cigarette butts, and I don't smoke and I'm not doing it. So they said, well, you'll go to lockup. So be it. But I didn't go. I've been
smoking this whole time, too. Me and these cigars, well, I tell you.
That's fine. I can't smell it. And so then they said they wanted me to clean the dorm. I'm no maid. I'm not doing no cleaning.
Not a maid.
Period. And so anyway, when I filed a lawsuit and they tried to do that, they wouldn't let me go to school. They said I had too much education. So they wouldn't let me take them old sorry classes that they had. It didn't matter. It's just passing time for me. And so when I wrote the judge, and it said, for me, the judge said my state job is to go to work in the law library to continue the lawsuit against the department. Okay. And they had to provide me with ink and paper, which they took the paper and the ink, and I wrote the judge, and she made them give it back. And because so
it got to a point where they was ready to get you on up out of there because you was filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, to the point where the warden resigned, right?
He did, but right, that was after I left. Right after I left, he did. He called me in his office and he asked me one day, are you trying to get me fired? And I was like, no, I'm trying to get you to do your job.
Right.
And so he was like, when do you get out of here?
He was like, is there anybody can help you go home early? You know what I'm saying? Because you got to go. I can't do this.
I said soon. And this was 2005.
Okay.
And so I went in March 2004. But God had told me I was gonna get out in 2 years anyway. When I got there, they gave me a setup for 2 years. So I went in March 04 and I came out March 06.
Okay.
Exactly 2 years.
So when you came
and
home,
so
when you came home, you had done all this work in prison, you know, law library. You had helped. You actually helped some other inmates get out, get their sentences reduced. You made sure that the conditions were better. You really became like a leader on a positive note in prison, right?
Right.
So you come home. Now, did you get your law degree while you were in prison?
No. No. I didn't go to. I still don't have my law degree. I got my pre-law.
Okay.
And I didn't get that until 2015.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, thank you. So, and I got out in 06.
Okay.
But yeah, I filed a lot of paperwork to help some of the inmates. They were released, went back to court and got released. Some of them got their time reduced. It was a Mexican there, and it was 2 of them. And so I helped them with some immigration papers and stuff. Once I got out, they had some family. One of them had some family and stuff. And she told me, she said, when you be a lawyer, you need to be an immigration lawyer. You be really good, and we need you. And so I helped her with some stuff. She was in Alamo, Texas.
Okay.
And I helped her with some stuff even after I got out. Then I went to school. Once I got out, I went to South University. I graduated legal studies.
Okay.
At the top
now,
of the class.
You graduated legal studies. Now but you did get a pardon. I do want to throw that you did get a pardon from the governor of Alabama at the time. You did get a pardon, and by getting a pardon, that means that it's like you never did it.
Correct.
So you got your pardon. And then was that a process that you filed, or was that something that the state just reached out to you? Like, how did that pardon come about?
No, they don't reach out. No, they don't reach out. No, they don't reach out to say, hey, you want to get a pardon? No,
right.
Well, I mean, you got to have a really good parole officer.
That's why I want to talk about the difference between expungement and getting a pardon and what that really means. Because, you know, a lot of pardons just happened when Trump came out of office. So.
Well, see, a federal pardon and a state pardon it's about the same. It's just one is federal because you're federal, and state is done by the governor.
Right.
Federal have to be done by the president.
Right.
You have to be pardoned by the president if you have federal cases.
Right.
If you have state cases, that's the governor's job.
Right.
Expungement in Alabama is different than probably anybody else's expungement, which we really shouldn't even say we have no expungement law, because what ours say is that if you are arrested and not charged, then you can get it expunged. So that makes
in order for you to be arrested, you have to be charged. So what's the point?
It's just stupid. It makes no sense. It's nothing. So you better off to go ahead and get your pardon. And in some cases, I mean, it still works. Even though you get a pardon, you don't, in Alabama, you still have to, it's still some stuff that you have to do to clear your name, so that whenever somebody pull your name, right, then it won't come up. Yeah. But if you don't take those extra steps and you just get a pardon, then it's gonna come. It'll still come up. It'll come up that you still have your record. It's not gonna come up that you have a pardon unless you take other steps within the system to assure that your name, you know, that it'll red flag. Like if your name come up, it's a red flag pop up, and they'll know not to send no negative nothing down. Okay. That you're clear.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, I got clearance. I got security clearance and everything with the government.
So you do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you get your part,
So
and at some point, the DA's office actually offers you a job.
yes, when I graduated, no, I had a year before I graduated school, and I ran into the DA, and he said, "I heard that you were in law school." I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "I heard that you were honor student." Now, who y'all been talking to? Y'all talking about me.
I'm doing a lot.
So I said, yeah. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I am. And so he said, well, where do you plan on working once you get your law degree? Are you planning on working here? I said, well, if I had to get a job, he said, you got one in the DA office.
Mm.
And I said, okay, because that's what I was planning on being, was a DA. He said,
So,
okay,
so
that's
talk about this.
good.
Why the addition? So, I got some friends that are attorneys, and I've dealt with some attorneys myself. And one of my an attorney I've worked with before, he said he became a defense attorney because this is what people don't understand about being a lawyer. Your job is not to determine guilt. Your job is to make the best argument for your side. And he said the reason why, because he got offered a job in the DA's office, he said the reason why he didn't want to become a DA is because as a DA, it's not your job to determine guilt. Your job is to make the best case against that person. And he said he didn't really feel like he could ever be in a situation where he knew somebody wasn't guilty, but because it was his job, he still had to make them look guilty. And that's part of your job as a DA. That's not going outside the realm of what a district attorney does, because you are an attorney for the district, and the district is bringing the case against this person, which means you got to present the case to the best of your ability, whether you believe in it or not. So he felt like he wanted to become a criminal attorney because he knew that if somebody walked in his office and he knew they were guilty and he didn't want to represent them, he could say no. But as a DA, you can't say no. You can't say, no, I don't want to represent the state, because that's your job, is to represent the state no matter what. So what makes you want to go into being a DA as opposed to saying, I want to be a criminal defense attorney?
Well, because what I find out is, and going through the criminal system and everything, when you go to trial, your lawyer has one shot at the jury.
Right.
For your defense.
Right.
DA speaks twice.
Right. They laugh.
Most of the time, the judge is going to go along with whatever the DA recommends. So if I felt that a person wasn't guilty of that, then I can go to the judge and plead to him faster than by being a defense attorney, and he's going to listen to me, and we could come to some type of resolution about that person faster as a DA than by being a defense attorney. Yeah. So I felt like I could help people better because I'll be more objective of listening to them and knowing how most DAs treat people of color.
Right.
And so I know if this person is guilty or not. I can read their case. Matter of fact, I went to court with several people, and I don't even have my law degree, but I went to court and the judge literally let me sit there and pick the jury with the attorney and won the case. You know, several times I've done that, or went in and talked with the judge myself and got people probation. You know, and I don't even have a law degree to do that. So can you imagine if I do? And what if I can do this and I'm not an attorney? What can I do if I am? Okay,
got you. But you didn't end up taking that job as the DA because you said that you felt like the state level wasn't big enough for what you wanted to do. So what did you end up doing?
So I reached out to our state representative, Rex Reynolds.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, Rex, I want to work with the Attorney General because I want to help with criminal justice reform.
Okay.
And prison reform, and that's his job.
Right.
And so that's a part of his job description.
His job.
Anyways, or whether he do it or not. And so he said, okay. he said, Steve is my best friend. Let me call him. So he called him, and they called me, and they offered me a job. They called me 3 times, and 3 times I had to turn them down because I was doing something else.
Okay.
And but the last time was like last year. They offered me, called me. They really want me to come work with them.
Okay.
Because I got a real good proposal that I think will help at least reduce some of it. And it's not building new prisons either.
Definitely.
And that was a part of my lawsuit was the overcrowdedness. And so the governor just now answering, solving one, coming up with a resolution for one of my issues that I raised, and that was one of them. And it was several other people, but also it was still open, And so she feels like by her building 2 maximum prisons, justify the overcrowdedness. And they just made that announcement last week that that's what they're going to do for the overcrowdedness. So that's still not an option.
The model too that in maximum prison shouldn't be in prison anyway. But so talk a little bit about that. Like when for yourself, someone who's been in the criminal justice system, now someone who's actually working in the criminal justice system as an activist and as as an employee. Someone who's actually working in that system now. What do you feel like is the things that need to change, or what do you feel like the issues are with our criminal justice system in the first place?
Well, one issue is mental health. There's no rehabilitation for mental health. Majority of the people that commit crimes have some type of underlying mental condition that go unaddressed, and then by going to prison, it doesn't do anything but make it worse.
Right.
Because because first of all, you don't know what it is that they're suffering from,
right.
And then you lock them up, and they could be claustrophobia, or they could have panic attacks, and there's no treatment for mental health.
Right.
And I think that they need to have some type of rehab to send people with mental condition, and you need to find out about their mental state of mind before you even send them to prison. Don't just send people to prison because they committed a crime. Why did they commit a crime? I mean,
right.
Everybody's not like me, just headstrong, just selling drugs because that's what you want to do. Some or commit crime. Some people have some
right. Your microphone went out. I still can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got you now. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Go. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So that's what I believe. You need to first find out what the real problem is before sending a lot of people to prison.
Right.
Because some of that can be addressed, and that could eliminate a lot of the overcrowding. Because simple possession cases, a person with 1 rock or $20 worth of drugs, why would you send them to prison? What's the purpose of sending them to prison?
Right. There's no rehabilitation, and all you're doing is overcrowding the prison. Matter of fact.
Right, and then when you go to prison, there's none.
There's none. Matter of fact, you know how to be a better criminal. Well, some people know how to be a better criminal, but you're in a place where there's nothing but criminals. So what else are you gonna learn other than crime?
Right. And if you have that type of mind, but most of them that I've ran across, no, they really should give up the criminal life. But
well, all I'm saying is if you started selling weed in 2005, and it's 2021, and you still selling the same little dime bags you were selling in 2005,
you need to give it up.
Job, but it's gonna get you, you know. You ain't
and
elevated
there's so many of them like that.
Just let it go.
I mean, you going from dope check to dope check.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can get your job, you can owe myself no money, right? You know, minimum wage is going to go up to $15 an hour, brother. You'll be doing a whole lot better if you just don't go with that.
A whole lot better. I mean, and you don't have to watch over your back.
Right.
With the little nickel and dime bag. And you know, drug dealers, they just don't last long out here. I mean, give it a good 8-month run, and then you got your 2 or 3 trafficking cases afterwards. You don't even get a full year in.
So let's talk about that too, because I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you got stuff to do, you know. So
I'm good.
Up on the end of our interview, but you know, there's another interviewer, and he asked this question a lot because he does some kind of interviews that I do, you know, and he asked this question a lot, and I've heard him ask some very well-known people that were in the business this question. You know, how long was your run? And most people, even the biggest names in the business, very few people say more than about a year or two. And, you know, there's these huge numbers that they say, oh, well, I made $100 million. I made $30 million. I mean, you know, I made all this money. But it's always, you know, a year, 2 years, 5 years. But then you end up getting 30 years in prison. You end up getting 40 years in prison. You find a way to get out, but you did 15 of them. You did 12 of them. You did 20 of them or whatever. You know, luckily in your case, you only had to do 2 of them. But, you know, that's outside the norm. Most people, you know, there's guys that went to prison in the 80s that's just not coming home. Well, they came home years ago. And they did 30 years in prison. You know, they went to prison in 85.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people did 30 years.
So, you know, you missed 3 decades of life. You know, and it's like, when you think back on it now, and when you understand the impact that era had on our culture. Because I heard, I want to say it was Teflon Sean down in, I don't know if you know him, but Sean, I can't remember his last name, but he's from Miami, right? One of the biggest drug dealers in the 80s from Miami. Am I saying it right? No, it wasn't Teflon Sean, but it was one of the guys from Miami. And he said, the thing about it is, we created a lifestyle out of a necessity because we didn't have a lot. We created, and we started doing what we were doing because it was out of necessity. But we created a lifestyle that right now people still emulate on all fronts. Yeah. You watch a Wall Street movie, those guys want to be like the drug dealers in the 80s. When you watch when you watch rap videos right now, they emulated drug dealers they emulated guys from the neighborhood in the 80s with the clothes and the cars and the women and the trip money and, you know, I'm stacking this money up, you know, and all this other stuff. So, like, when you look, but then you look at the level of degradation that crack cocaine brought onto the black community. Like, there's people who I definitely know for a fact that they never smoked crack, that they wouldn't be where they were. You know, back when I was younger, you know, and I remember asking the guy, I said, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Because he was so smart. Like, he was so wise, right? And I remember asking him, I said, why do you do this? And he was like, because it makes me feel good. See, every time I smoke, it's the best one I ever had in my life. And I looked at him, and he ended up getting off of it a couple years later after that, right? But, you know, when I looked at him, I'm like, he was a military veteran. He came home, went to college, and he started smoking crack in like maybe 84, 85 when he was in college. And this is going all the way up into the 90s and the 2000s. He was still, you know, you see what I'm saying? So when you look at that, and you think about you were a part of that destroyed so many lives. Like what's your take on that part of it?
Well, if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't, because I see how it literally and I helped destroy a lot of communities, like communities in our city that had nothing to do with drugs, nothing. And I brought it to that neighborhood because I had to leave one area because that area got hot or whatever.
Right.
And a lot of people, like you said, started working just just to do drugs. A lot of people, children, went neglected.
Right.
Well, and then I guess I felt guilty about what I was doing, but not to the point to stop. But I would help the kids, and I would help the families. I would pay their utility bills or their rent or whatever, or buy their kids Christmas, and people that I ran into, and I knew that they were lacking, and their parents was on drugs or whatever, and I would help the kids. I always help the kids, and I think I was just really too young or to even realize the major damage that this will cause to the community.
Right.
I didn't really realize that until later on in life.
Right.
But
would you say that even with all the stuff that you did and all the stuff that you've been through, that it was worth it to have done it?
The lesson, yes. I don't think I would have been the person that I am today had I not went through all of the stuff that I went through, because it just made me stronger and wiser and a better person.
Right.
Today than I was then.
Right. I mean, I definitely could understand where you're coming from. Sometimes I think people look back at the 80s and the 90s, and the early 2000s, and like I can definitely say, even for myself, that I'm better for having been a product of the things that I did. I'm a better person today.
Yeah. You're a better person. Yeah.
And even in other avenues in life, it like it taught me lessons that were valuable in other avenues in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
it did.
That seems to be the consensus with most of the people I talk to, that are slightly older than me, like yourself, or people that are around my age. There seems to be the consensus is that it teaches you a certain level of a way to move.
Right.
That you wouldn't have learned otherwise.
No, you definitely. The lessons that you learn in the street and things that you see, you couldn't possibly learn that by going to work at Boeing.
Right. Which has its own, and don't get me wrong, it has its own set of issues. Working in corporate America, trying to move up in
that's right.
Because I've done that. Time
right.
I was in my 20s, I've worked in corporate America and moved up, so that has its own set of issues. And it's actually more similar than what you know.
Right.
Part of life can be just as ruthless and cutthroat as anything else. So,
100%.
So, listen, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I appreciate you interviewing me. And I got your number in my phone. So, if you get a text, let me stop messing with you, but before we go, I want you to let the people know how they get in touch with you. If they want to do any interviews, if they want you to come and do any speaking engagements, for any business purposes at all, let the people know how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, you can follow me on Facebook, Perrion Roberts, and you can follow me on Instagram. That's Perrion_Roberts. And we have a website. It's PerrionRoberts.com. And you want to keep up with me in the news, it's Perrion Roberts News.
Okay.
Just Google Perrion Roberts News, and you can see everything that I've done, interviews and different stuff. It's all on that. And the book will be out in early spring, and followed by a workbook that I'm writing a workbook, and it's to change criminal thinking to responsible thinking.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so we'll have that, both books, early spring, and you can just contact us like that, and I'll be happy to come and speak.
That's what's up. So listen, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. I am going to save this to my IGTV story, and I'm going to be uploading this to my YouTube page too. So if you missed the beginning of the interview, then you can either watch it from my IGTV, and then of course, you can catch it on YouTube as well. So we appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate you I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Cause I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be smoking. I'm gonna finish these cigars and keep going hot. Right?
No, you can smoke. Yeah, get your cigar now.
So there you go. And if you're ever in Atlanta, make sure we connect.
I'll be in Atlanta soon.
Okay, good. I'll be in Atlanta waiting on you.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm gonna see y'all later.
I'll call you when I get there.
All right.
Bye-bye.